All right, so we watched Jacob's Ladder for Memorial Day. That was my plan that I did not tell Kaylee. I put
Yeah.
it on, was like, I'm gonna have this review uploaded for Memorial Day, and when you don't tell your wife your plans, sometimes they fall through. So we're late, but that was the original plan, and but you're still getting it. So Jacob's Ladder,
Yes.
starring one Tim Robbins, right before he had his massive success, was still the highest rated film on IMDb ever, The Shawshank Redemption. Okay, so obviously this one deals with like PTSD, Agent Orange, soldiers returning from Vietnam, and you know, just the psychological damage that comes with having these things happen to you. And I think a lot of films have covered this, but this one does it from more of a horror angle.
Mm.
My favorite film that deals with this topic by far and away is First Blood, the first Rambo movie. I think it does it beautifully, and I think Stallone's performance in that, especially at the end, is just as good as it gets.
Mm.
As far as this one, I do like it as far as like the way that the PTSD and the horror is portrayed in his mind and how he kind of keeps going in and out of reality. I don't care much for the ending and what it means to the entirety of the film when I think about it too much. But I want to say that I like the swing here dealing with the PTSD angle
Mm-hmm.
and how horrendous warfare is on the mind and the body and the world. So I'm always going to enjoy slandering war because I think it is the most horrendous thing that humans do, period. And I don't see an argument to the contrary. It is literally the worst thing that humans do. So I always like to see it portrayed negatively like this and to see how much it affects people's minds. I think it's really well shot. I think it's really well directed. It's super well acted. So it is a very solid film. I don't really, I have gripes with how it ends because I don't think it makes a lot of sense
Mm.
for the overall picture. But if as long as you cut that off,
Yeah.
I think if they would have just handled we'll talk about it. But I want to hear your thoughts. But yeah, the ending is my biggest gripe. But other than that, I think it's very solid throughout.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I saw this when I was younger and I didn't remember a ton about it. I think the scene that I remembered the most from when I watched it was when he's being rolled through the hospital on
Same,
the gurney.
same.
I think that's probably
th-
the most memorable scene,
yeah,
honestly, because it just goes from like,
scary.
yeah, it is really scary, like the people crawling on top of the like cages and everything. Like I did like all the imagery. I think that it does a really good job at showing very like demonic, hellish imagery in like daily life kind of a thing where he's, questioning his sanity and what's happening to him. And obviously, as a PTSD metaphor, that works really well. As far as the other aspect, though, where it's like he is kind of, it's like this battle for his soul. Like, is he going to go to hell or heaven? That it feels very on the nose, obviously. I don't really see another way to look at it when you take that part of it, right? Like, I like it better as a PTSD metaphor, but the ending kind of makes it more of a battle for your soul, for
Mm.
his soul, which is fine. I really like the way that the film looks, and I think it has a darkness to it, and I do really love his performance as well. I think that he really like shines with like how confused he feels and how anxious and how like just betrayed by his government and everything, and I was really into all of that. Yeah, but I agree with you. I do think the ending kind of muddles things a bit. Like, what we talked about it immediately when we finished the movie, and I was trying to make it work with some things, but it kind of is exactly what it says. Like, it's just, he dies in overseas. Like, he never makes it back. Yeah. So everything that happens to him is
just in his head in the last minutes
just him
of
dying.
life.
It's just the dying process, which that's, it is scary, of course, but I think, I don't know, that's kind of what I was meaning about it being really on the nose. It's like very specific about what's going on.
Yeah. Macaulay Culkin is in this. This is a couple years or a year or something before Home Alone. He's just the cutest little freaking kid.
Yeah, he is.
His character is obviously Tim Robbins' kid in this, and he dies, which is kind of like not 100% obvious at first, and I kind of had to figure it out and was like, wait, what's happening? Because he gets like a letter from him while he's over there, but he died before he left. So like all that stuff was like really unclear to me. I didn't understand how any of that worked. So I was confused about that. I think a lot of these things could have been handled better. As far as like the hospital scene, I will say that reminded me a lot of the scene in Fire in the Sky when he's being rolled through, the alien spaceship, and he's seeing all the crazy things around him. And I feel like Tim Robbins and D.B. Sweeney from that movie actually look fairly similar.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of Fire in the Sky the whole time I was watching that scene. Anyway, as far as like the ending goes, with him just having not really gotten far away from the battle, and the fact that they were being experimented on or whatever, and so maybe we're seeing some kind of like lucid hallucination kind of thing while he's in the dying process. It just, I don't know, it doesn't really make any sense to me, because I feel like what would have worked here is that we would have like seen the life he was supposed to have when he got back, right? And like he has his kid, and he has his wife, and he has all these things, but then like as the movie goes on, that kind of starts to fall apart, like no matter what he does, and he's losing it, and he's trying to keep a hold of it, and his son keeps like going and missing or whatever, and then it's kind of revealed that he gets word that his son was killed while he was over there, and it's like something he's trying to process as he's dying. Like, no, I was supposed to come back to my family. I was supposed to have a kid, multiple, he has like 3 kids or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to have this family. I think you could have cut out the other 2 kids completely. Just have the one kid, the wife. He's with them. As he's trying to keep a hold of them, his life keeps falling apart around him no matter what he does. And he's like fighting to keep his family, but he can't. He ultimately can't, because he's dying. This is the process, right? Like, this is the grieving process of finding out that you're dying. It's like, first you go through fear, then you go through those stages, and then eventually it's acceptance. And it's like, in the end, you get those revelations of like, he doesn't get to have the life that he should have. I just don't feel like, because he has some other girlfriend, and it's a girlfriend he never even really had, and he's like a postal worker. It's just so confusing on like, this is some fantasy scenario, but as you said, it's supposed to be like this heaven and hell, but he keeps going in and out of like one life and another.
Yeah.
And I just feel that's so confusing. And it's like, there's such a better path to take with this, with like him losing the life that he should have had, because that's exactly what it is. When a soldier when a soldier goes off to war, he's promised a future. When he gets back, he's going to get his college paid for, and the military is going to take care of this and that. And he's like, he has a wife waiting at home for him, and he has a family, and he wants to get back to him, and they never fucking make it home. And it's tragic, and they lose their life a lot of the times over nothing, over wars that they're lied into. And I just feel like the betrayal and the loss of everything that he should have had would have been such a much stronger message.
So I do think that is kind of what's happening, though, because he is imagining, he knows that his son died, so he doesn't feel like he can go home and still be a part of that family because of the loss of his son. So he's like imagining like that he would be going home and being with this other woman, but he wants what he used to have with his family. He wants everyone to be alive. Yeah. And so him going in between those two things is like him battling what he thinks he deserves versus what he wants. But I agree with you. I think it's confusing, but I also think that it probably is supposed to be a bit confusing, because I think that we're in his brain as he's dying. So there's so many things happening that are like not necessarily linear or, completely grounded, because he is floating between these different stages. And even when he's sick, right, and he's like in the bathtub and he's shivering and it's like he's got this fever that's like 106 or whatever, like that's his actual body having a reaction, and he's like, it's showing up in his dreams as what's going on. So I think that, I understand that, but I do think that it is confusing. I think that it is like something that you really have to, like, this isn't a movie that you can just kind of like partly pay attention to.
See, what would have made sense with that is like if we would have found out that before he left, he had an affair with a woman, which ultimately led to the death of his kid or something, right? Like, and that he feels this tremendous guilt about what he's done, and that's why he feels like he deserves to get stuck with this other girl who is ruined his life, and he ruined his life over with that. Like this random girl that we're like attaching ourselves to and his relationship with, and she's just like fantasy.
She's a biblical character though, like she's Jezebel.
Right.
So that's what I was like there's a lot of those tie-ins to religion in this.
A little on the nose, right.
It is a little on the nose, but I think that's like why he's putting that character basically in there. And it is interesting because he does have like a literal angel, that's trying to help him. His chiropractor. Danny Aiello. Who's like telling him like, you can't hold on so hard, you have to let go.
That
basically.
Shit is so on the nose.
It is.
He literally should have just been a big nose.
He's literally just like, you're dying, like you gotta not. But they're literally talking about death and everything. So, all of that stuff, like I think as confusing as it can be, I think that works well. The part that probably makes the least sense as far as why he would be imagining it that we talked about is how he would know that there was chemical put into their their drugs or their food, and like he has this government guy come and tell him like, we experimented like on you guys and like you killed each other and everything.
They wouldn't know it.
So that is honestly just in there for us.
Yeah.
Like just to be like, we also want to tell you like how horrible the government is, to soldiers sometimes. Most of the time.
You're right. He wouldn't know. The only thing is that there's like some suspicion because the guys are like, like what's going on with this?
They start like convulsing and seizing and everything. So I guess he
and
would
where's
be
the
very
aggression,
like,
right? Like he's
well, he gets killed by another.
No,
soldier.
I know, but he shouldn't, because he's pumped up with that shit. Shouldn't he have like lots of outrageous bursts of anger in his nightmares because he's pumped up with this stuff that's supposed to make him irrational and rage-filled?
I do feel like, it makes him very paranoid for sure, but that's it's hard to say because like a lot of those like behaviors that he like exhibits are the PTSD symptoms, I think, that you can point out. So I don't know. It's a cool movie though. Like it's definitely a memorable film.
Yeah. They remade it recently. It looks terrible.
Yeah, I don't really have any interest in watching a remake.
Which sucks because I think that if they did remake this in a better way, I feel like this could be remade and better it. Like what I was saying, where I feel like you could have made things like I think you could have fleshed things out more, thought about things a little more, and had a bigger impact in the ending of like, oh shit, like that's where that's what's happening here. And that's just, I don't know. It doesn't work for me fully. I think there's a lot that does work, but I think ultimately in the end, it just gets very confusing and not in a like thought provoking way, more of just like a annoyed, confused way.
Even though this has kind of a good ending, like he gets to go into the light with his son. Whatever happens beyond that, we don't know, because he's still technically alive when he's dying, but anyway,
he goes to heaven. Come on.
I think this is the kind of movie that you would watch like as a younger, like a kid or whatever, and it would make you like absolutely terrified of dying. I feel like it's like very scarring, even though he technically like gets like a happy ending in his death, like he's not sent to hell or anything, but I don't know. It just feels like everything that's happening is very scary, and he's really trying to understand what's going on.
Man, his girlfriend in this sucks.
Yeah, she's really not supportive of him.
Yeah.
But that's very, like, representative of how people treat people who have PTSD and veterans in general, like 100. Especially when they're actually exhibiting like symptoms of their PTSD that make it hard for, not even hard, but that make it uncomfortable for other people to be around them. They don't want to.
Well, and especially back then.
Oh yeah,
right. People don't have the knowledge they have now. Like we're much more aware of the effects of what happens to people after they go over, and fight in wars.
Yeah.
We're much more privy to that stuff these days than they were then. Back then it was like, stop being a pussy.
Well, and also now we know that, they used to think PTSD was something that only happened to soldiers.
Oh, right.
And now it's like, no, it can happen to literally anybody for like things that you wouldn't even expect to cause PTSD.
And they also used to just change the verbiage on it.
Oh, sure.
Here and there. Like originally it was like battle fatigue.
Sure. And
then
like
it was shell shocked.
Yeah.
And then it became, so on and so forth.
Well, it's really crazy because there's so many, and even using that word, like there are so many words that we use as like adjectives now that were medical terms that were used like in the DSM or whatever.
Yeah.
Crazy, being a big one of them.
Yeah.
Psychotic, like words that we use very casually,
loosely.
That unfortunately, like, and it's hard because it's like you can't really change. You can change it, but like using words in that context, like when somebody's like super distracted and you're like, oh, they have ADHD, like it does bad things for mental health and mental illness. Like it stigmatizes it further because it trivializes it in different ways. So it's tough. It's really tough because we're all kind of slaves to the language in some ways, but
sure. Well, it diminishes the severity of it and makes it more I don't know, humorous.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, yeah.
Even when you say things like, people talk about being triggered, right? Like, and trigger warnings are a very important and real thing that people should absolutely have available to them, because like actually being triggered by something is not the same as being like bothered by it or annoyed by it or irritated. Like it literally triggers anxiety or PTSD symptoms, other ones in you. Like it's not the same, right? It's just being like, oh, that's annoying to me.
Yeah, so, I definitely, as somebody who's suffered from panic disorder my whole life, I would not want to send anybody into anything that's going to make them have a panic attack.
Yeah.
That would not be, so if I could prevent someone from having one, because a lot of times it's like, buck the fuck up. And I can be on that train a lot. Like, I've definitely stated in the past, like, trigger warnings are for pussies. I've probably eased up on that a little. Not as much as maybe I should. But I get what you're saying. I just feel like it is, I don't know. In talking about horror movies with horror fans, I'm just kind of like, if you can't handle horror movies, you shouldn't be watching them. So for me, it's like, you know, horror is a specific genre that is meant to elicit like kind of negative responses. Like that's its point. It's trying to be hardcore. It's trying to get into your psyche and fuck with your head. And if you're somebody who's already prone to having adverse reactions to that kind of material, then it might not be the genre for you. I know like you want everything to like, I can just go to a place and make sure that it doesn't have these few things, but you're kind of rolling the dice, right? Because though you might not get an accurate telling of like what's in a movie or something. It's like maybe you should just avoid like extreme films when you can't and when you can't handle extreme things. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean,
so it's
I do know what you're
I don't know.
saying,
It's hard. It's a
think,
balance to it.
I mean, I disagree because I don't think that horror is only there to make you have negative feelings. I think like it is a very cathartic thing, and I think people watch horror to cope with their bad feelings. And I do think like not every horror movie has all of the elements that would trigger somebody.
No,
you know,
they
like
don't.
If you're someone that has like a problem with like gore, then you know how you can avoid gore, or if you you know, like there's things like that, right? Like there's
if you don't like gore, you shouldn't be watching horror.
But that's not fair because there's so many horror movies that don't have gore in them. Though.
No,
there's so many that don't have gore
because you're limiting yourself so much in there because so many do. And you're rolling the dice too often, right?
Well, it's only rolling the dice if you can't get like accurate like trigger warnings. It's
like saying like, you know, I want to watch softcore porn, like I'm really into erotic stuff, but I don't want to see a penis. And it's like, you're probably gonna see a penis. You know what I mean? Like, I'm triggered by penises, but I really want to watch, like, erotic films. Like, I mean, yeah, you could find movies without it, but you're probably going to, like, run into them here and there. So you're, like, kind of setting yourself up for triggering yourself. Like, you can't go and find a trigger warning on every film that you go to sit down and watch. You're literally playing Russian roulette with your you know, mental health. When you're purposely watching a genre that's filled with things that trigger you on a regular basis. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you're opposed to gore,
I mean,
horror probably 50% of the time has gore in it. So it's very hard to avoid. So it's like maybe you should just not watch horror if you really, really don't like gore. Like if it triggers you. If you're someone who's like, I don't care for it. It's not my thing. When I see it, I kind of just look away. But if you're like, I'm fucking like in the corner, like, oh my God, that fucked me up. It's like, I don't think this is your genre. I'm sorry, I just don't. When you're that fucked up by it, if you're triggered to the point where you literally are fucking crippled, it's you're rolling the dice too often. Do you see what I'm saying? It's if your trigger is like, I don't want to see that because it's gonna like upset me, then fine, because you can handle that. If it happens, you're like, oh fuck, like damn, like I really wish I didn't see that, but I can get through my day. But if you're like, oh my God, I gotta cancel my day, I gotta fucking like call out of work, I'm fucked up, you're too sensitive for the genre. Do you see what I'm saying? It's the level of reaction you're going to have to the material, and you're like depending on other people to make sure you're safe. And horror is just not a safe genre. It's just not. That's not the purpose of it. The purpose of horror is to push boundaries, is to push the envelope, to, you know, to get people to have a reaction, whether it's to be scared or very thought-provoking or to push elements of depravity or whatever. There's many different facets of it, but it's always like in a certain way to elicit a specific emotional response. And there's so many different types that you're never going to know. You're never going to know going into it whether or not you're safe. And if you need to be safe watching a horror movie, then it's just not your genre.
I think we got really off track. In this
I know,
review,
but
so.
no, it's fine. I think we'll have people disagree with me and agree with you and vice versa. We'll see. I think it's a good discussion. I feel very passionate about it. I'm trying to make sure you understand my position. I completely understand yours.
I still disagree, though.
That's fine.
I understand what you're saying, but I do disagree because I think that I think people should not. I don't think that it's wrong for us to be supportive of other people. Like, so if it was more normalized that we were like giving trigger warnings more abundantly in all genres of movies, because that's kind of the other thing that I was going to say, is that it's not like the only movies that would trigger somebody are horror movies. Like, there's plenty of other movies that do end up having sensitive subjects.
Sure, but that would be noteworthy. If someone got
would,
brutally raped in a comedy, I would be like, just in case you're like really sensitive to rape, this would be really random.
Silly comparison, because that wouldn't necessarily happen in a comedy.
It might.
It could happen in like a thriller or even in a drama or something like that. So, and there's lots of really messed up stuff that happens in.
I mean, look at Pulp Fiction.
Genres.
Pulp Fiction is like satirical.
If it's like a satirical
and it has comedy, a very brutal rape scene.
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect it, right? So, like, if I
kind of would in a Tarantino movie.
But at that point, Tarantino had only made 2 films.
Yeah.
That was the second film. So, if I went to Pulp Fiction, I would be like, and just so you know, this is not the kind of movie you might think this is going to come in, but there is a rape scene. And I'd be okay with that, because that is the kind of movie where I'd be like, no, I feel safe. I don't think I'm going to see a rape.
Well, but, I mean, yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying, though. Like, if it was more normalized that people were... Like, if trigger warnings were more readily available, because I don't think that they are for every movie, but I don't honestly actively look into trigger warnings most of the time, because there's not a ton of stuff that I would be, like, really uncomfortable seeing. But, yeah, I don't think it's fair to say that, like, if you have things that you don't want to see on screen, that you can't watch a genre because you're too sensitive. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I just disagree with that. I don't think that's fair. I think that's kind of gatekeepy in a way. Because I think that you could have, you could have very specific things that you're just like, yeah, I don't want to see this in a movie, but I love horror movies. So, like, I just don't watch the ones that have this in it. And like I said, I do think that there's a lot of horror movies, even though you are more likely to probably see gore in a horror movie than another genre, except maybe a war film. There are still a ton of horror movies that don't have gore in them.
Sure.
There's also, like, there's PG-13, there's children's horror, like, it's just such a vast genre to me that I think that you can find a movie and a subgenre within it that fits the kind of vibe that you like in general.
I think it's pretty self-evident for the most part when movies are going to have specific things. I think every once in a while there's something that happens in a movie that I'm like, oh shit, I definitely didn't see that coming in this movie. But, like, when I watch I Spit on Your Grave, I'm like, I know where this is going.
I mean, yeah, like,
it's pretty obvious.
It's definitely, like, obviously you should be responsible for your mental health and well-being and, like, you know, be discerning about what you're going to watch and put into your brain.
Uh-huh.
But I don't think it's bad for you to maybe also have other people... like the kindness of strangers to help in some instances, right? Like, if you're like, I'm gonna Google and find out, like, if this happens. I mean, there's plenty of people that, like, they want to know all the spoilers. You know, they want to know exactly what happens in a movie because they don't like anything surprising, and that's kind of like sort of. So
we're all different.
Everyone's different, really.
Yeah.
That's really the moral of the story.
So, the arguments have been made, and now it's up to you guys to deliberate in the comments below. Who are you more on the side of here? Kaylee or me? The asshole.
No, you're not an asshole.
The sensitive, wonderful Kaylee or the mean, asshole, fucking gatekeeper.
No, you're not a gatekeeper.
It's gatekeepy.
This is gatekeepy.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Let us know. Bye.